Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of huge payoffs, looking at songs that presumably build up to a rather large moment that is cathartic in some way or another. We're going to be checking out God Is An Astronaut this week, which I think is post rock. That's the That's the idea I have in my mind with them, which the genre as a whole is going to be really good for that. Let's dive into this, see what's going on with a live version of Suicide by Star. It's a short song and they're really taking their time getting into this. You got pedal tones on the bass, moving along with the chord progression on our guitar. Am I missing something? There's only 3 performers. Where's this second guitar coming from? Huh. Oh, okay. Dude's been off screen this whole time. There is a 4th performer. Okay, makes more sense now. I love the rhythmic flow of the drummer. Also, just how much fuller the sound is with the second guitarist over here. Handing them off to the left and right, and then only having one play at a time is a really interesting way of creating a sense of incompletion to the overall sounds. Really interesting to see our left guitarist working with triplets. Wow. Segmented phrase like drumming. Interesting decision to go there. Just a quick note, I really appreciate the 60 frames per second on that. More performances should be recorded in high frame rate. Uh, just makes things very clear. Okay, so this is a single idea, and it's longer than I thought. For some reason, I thought this was only 3 minutes long, so I was really confused about 30 seconds of hum feedback maybe at the beginning, but closer to 5 minutes. Yeah, it's not that huge of a chunk taken up by basically silence at the beginning of the track. The song is about building growth. We take a single idea and slowly change and add things. So we start off with very sparse drumming. Our opening guitar line is alternating between two notes, I think, in a chord. Maybe it wasn't alternating, but it was playing a pattern based on just two notes. And that same pattern shifted pitch as the chord changed. So we got a really nice outline of what the chords were based on the dyads the guitar was giving us, and the bass was providing a pedal tone alongside that. Very sparse, very quiet, not a lot, not a wide instrumentation, not a lot of layers going on, not a lot of sound. We eventually add in our right guitar with a sort of a melody line over it. We pull that right guitar out. We go back to just the left guitar and the bass, but they have shifted. The left guitar is playing more now. The drummer is adding more notes. We're adding more layers once again. And then we get our right guitar coming back in, providing another melodic layer on top of this. That melodic layer eventually shifts over into 16th note picking with distortion, I think. I'm not quite sure if the distortion kicked in yet, but the thing is, we have more attacks now. Where it was sparser eighth note bass stuff, we are now looking at 16th notes. And when we look over to what the left guitarist is doing, they have switched over to distortion, compression, fuzz, reverb, and I couldn't quite tell perfectly what their strumming pattern was. I mentioned that they were moving into triplets, and I kind of feel that way, but it also could have been tremolo, where he's just picking at whatever speed he wanted to. Because honestly, if I didn't see his hands, I don't know that I could have told you where or what the picking pattern was based on the sound alone. Everything kind of blurs together in a gazy kind of way. Very much becomes a wall of sound. So it really doesn't matter if he's doing triplet picking or tremolo picking or 16th note picking, any of it, because the end result is going to be similar regardless. Um, but we have the increased intensity from the more attacks from them. We have the increased intensity from the volume and the distortion and the reverb and the tone and volume combined here. The bass is getting louder and is playing notes more often as well. The drums this whole time have been building up. Every 8 bars or so, we have begun to hear more and more notes being played until we have these full eighth note runs across the kit. Left to right, full use, cymbals, snare, tom, bass. It's just this constant stream of movement coming from the drum kit. And it's this slow metamorphosis from the very baseline idea, right? Two notes of the chord plus a pedal tone and very sparse drumming into this, which encapsulates the same emotions and the same chord progressions and is probably built on that same drum pattern we heard at the beginning, but expanded upon, fully fleshed out. taking it into the opposite of extreme while still retaining much of the core identity of what we were doing at the beginning. And I kind of like the back and forth idea as well. We present the foundation, and then we get our lead guitar, and then we present the next foundation, which is an expansion of our first, and then we get the lead guitar again, and then everything moves forward into the final payoff, the big section. Um, and I think it works well in that regard. I'm not really sure what the song is telling me, but I was along for the ride, and I think that this slow evolution works really well in this context. Now, all of this leads up to the end, which should be the highest point. We have this very natural rise of tension, of instrumentation, of size, of width of tone, of number of hits, number of notes per bar that we have. Everything is escalating. So I find it really interesting when we hit our final 8 bars or so and the drums shift from that constant flow to this phrasing, dooga dooga da, dooga dooga da, dooga dooga da, dooga dooga da. And it creates this pulse that feels antithetical to this idea of rising. It's a moment where things back off just a moment. And maybe if the rest of the song, if I connected with it and understood what all of this was aiming for, it might make a little bit more sense to me. But I find it to be a subversion of everything that they told me they were doing up to that point. And so, without any additional context to this, it feels a bit of a letdown. I really wanted this to be the peak, and it ends up backing down just a little bit away from a peak in a way that, at least to me, feels a bit like a letdown. Maybe it won't be that way on a future listen now that I know what it's going for. Maybe somebody can give me their interpretation of this track and maybe the narrative that they hear in their head. I can work around it and be like, oh, so it's supposed to represent this, and I can come around to it in that direction. But as it stands right here, as you know, like I said, I don't really understand what the song is saying. It's a beautiful soundscape. But as far as a meaning, a feeling, a story, I got none of that, which is interesting because God Is An Astronaut, we've checked out before, and they're very much well, at least for me, they've been a story based instrumental band. Is that right? Have we only checked out instrumentals from them? I noticed that they had microphones up there, but I don't ever recall listening to a track with them with vocals. So, regardless, though, they make beautiful atmospheres that to me tell stories as the songs evolve. And I didn't get one here. I don't know if it's because it was short. I don't know if it's because it was one singular idea. I don't know if it's because I focused on the evolution of it for this listen. But I didn't really connect with it that way. And so the ending kind of comes out of nowhere and feels like a letdown. And maybe the letdown is supposed to be what I'm feeling. But yeah, so the drums pulling back a little bit was strange for me. And I think that's about it. I don't want to call it a simple song because there is a lot going on. But the concept is simple. Take one idea, expand upon it, and 4 minutes later reach a point that feels explosive, but not too different from where we started. I've been looking at this title, Suicide by Star, and I don't know what that means. The first thing that comes to my mind when I think of Death and Star is supernova. Uh, I don't know. I mean, there's also the sun. That's a star. I suppose if you fly yourself into the sun, that would be a suicide by star, but is that what this is supposed to be? Like you're in a ship and you're flying towards a star, whatever star that might be, um, and it's off in the distance, and that's where things are quiet. And as you get closer, the intensity builds, and you can feel, the ultimate end happening here. You're going to lose your life. And so the intensity builds until that point, but again, I don't know that the end really works with that idea either. I don't know. It's an interesting track, and I like what they did with the evolution of it, but past that, I can't say I connected. The payoff, I think, was worth it, though. I liked hearing how the idea flourished and expanded over time, and I think they landed on a section that really works well because of their dynamic changes. Having the width of the tones increase and having the volume rise, really creating a song that's 10 to 15 dBs quieter than the max and allowing it to stay in that area for so long really makes the finale feel large. And it's one of the ways that I think post rock tends to do well that other genres of rock don't is dynamics. They understand that they need them, all sorts of dynamics, but specifically when it comes to volume, that they're not afraid to actually decrease the volume of their song in order for maximum impact later. And I guess that wraps this one up. It was kind of a short one, but my thoughts on God Is An Astronaut's Suicide by Star. Let me know what you thought of this one. Give me your perspectives, comments, thoughts, ideas, readings of this down in the comments section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree in there. It'll take you to this menu right here. You can find my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. Alright, we have a special selection coming up next. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow. We're going to check out our last two tracks for Huge Payoffs Week. It's going to be nice having them back to back. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.